Welcome to the Tax Sale Podcast, where tax sale investing is made easy. My name is Casey Denman. I'm a tax sale veteran. I am the leading tax sale expert. I'm the author of The Tax Sale Playbook, founder of the Tax Sale Academy, and I am your host right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast episode. This podcast can be found on Spotify Video, YouTube, and wherever podcasts can be found. So make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting or video platform. And as a reminder, this is a completely free podcast brought to you through and because of the Tax Sale Academy, which you can check out by visiting taxsaleacademy.com. Okay, today I want to talk about fully remote tax sale investing. Some people refer to it as a virtual tax sale investing. Now, I've seen lots and lots of YouTube videos, sales pitches, and everything else under the sun when it comes to working from home and making loads and loads of money. So I want to shed some light on fully remote tax sale investing. Now, obviously, working remote in a profitable business is highly intriguing to most people. The idea of making loads of money without ever having to leave the comfort of your home or wherever you want to be at is the kind of thing that most people desire. Now, I've even gone on record discussing how some of the most profitable properties I've ever purchased were done so while I was on vacation, on a cruise, or even 30,000 feet in the air. I also have many students inside the academy who invest in areas that they do not travel to, including many international students who don't come to the U.S. to buy these properties. But the question remains, is this possible for everybody to do? The short answer is yes, kind of. The long answer is that it's a little bit more difficult than just clicking the mouse a couple of times here and there and checking your bank account for some large incoming wire deposits. Now, I literally have hours and hours of training on this exact topic inside the Tax Sale Academy. So it's very difficult to condense that all down into one podcast episode, but I want to go over a few of the basics behind this concept. So to really put it into practice, it is crucial to look at what we're doing with the entire approach. We are buying and typically selling tax defaulted real estate. When we do it remotely, that means we're buying and selling tax defaulted real estate that we oftentimes do not see. And therein lies the hurdle that some people are not willing but should jump over. In many cases, our entire investment is a piece of dirt that is hundreds or even thousands of miles away. So the number one absolute necessity in this business, the most important thing, research. I know. It is not exciting and it is not entertaining. I definitely understand that. I do it every single day. But I've got a saying that I've used for years. The quality of your research determines the quality of your investments. Good research leads to good investments. Bad research leads to bad investments. And accordingly, good investments means you make good money. Bad investments means you lose money. If you know everything possible about a piece of property, absent of a total economic collapse worse than that of the Great Depression, you will not lose money. It's as simple as that. Every single tax sale investment that turns out bad is the direct result of somebody's negligent research. The fun part is buying. The fun part is marketing. The fun part is selling and closing. The fun part is getting those large wire transfers. But the important part is research. And I'm going to preach this until the end of time. If you can't sell a property, well, you should have done better research determining the supply and demand for that type of property in that area. Is the property not buildable? You should have done better research. Is the property not accessible? Should have done better research. Did the house that was on that property get demolished? Should have done better research. Listen, I am guilty of overlooking those same things too. I actually write about this in Tax Sale Playbook, where a house that I bought was demolished. But every single time an investment does not turn out the way that I thought it should, when I look back, they say hindsight's 20/20, but when I look back, I can look at the research I did and know exactly what I missed. So, as we research properties that are out of area, when we research properties from afar, there truly is a number of things that we can research online. In fact, we can get roughly 90% or so of our required research accomplished in most counties solely through the internet. The exception, of course, are the counties in rural, low-budgeted areas that simply don't have the capabilities of putting all of their data online yet. But in most counties, the bulk of what we do can be accomplished online. In fact, it doesn't really matter if you live right next door to the property or it's on the other side of the world. All your research, initially at least, is going to begin in the same place, online. Now, just because we can research properties online does not mean it is, end quote, easy. That's the mistake that a lot of people make, especially new investors. There's a flow process that you must work through to filter properties and to research them accurately. You have to go through the process. Now, that information, when it comes to the flow process, what you need to research, all that kind of stuff, I've got lots of videos about that. I talk about that in the book. And of course, I train people in the academy. So I don't want to go off topic here. But I want you to understand, research is a huge part of this business and something you must think about when it comes to investing out of area. So again, we can get roughly 90% or so of the information required that helps us decide whether we want to invest in something online. But what about that other 10%? What about that 10% that'll put us over the edge when it comes to saying yes or no? That last little bit of research. Well, that is arguably the most important part. That is what requires a physical inspection of the property. And I'm not talking about like a home inspector goes in there and crawls in the attic and the crawl space and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about simply a site visit. Now, you could simply forgo this part. You could skip it altogether. But in my opinion, that's more closely tied to gambling than investing. And yes, even for vacant land, because I know that question is going to come up. More on that momentarily. But the physical inspection, if you want to call it that, should do nothing more than confirm what you thought you were researching actually exists the way you thought it should. So in other words, the physical characteristics of the property should match the same aspects of the property shown in the research that you did online. That sounds a lot easier than it is, but in a perfect scenario, you should be able to look online and say, this, and this is exactly what I see when I drive by that property. The problem here is that a lot of people don't even take the time to worry about this step. They would rather gamble. And the ones who do might do a few inspections initially, but eventually they lose interest and they also just skip it altogether because they haven't ran into any issues. Here's is the problem. Compared to a random list of real estate from the county records, just go out and pull 100 properties off the county records. When you compare those properties to tax defaulted real estate, that tax defaulted real estate has a significantly higher concentration of properties that have issues. If you luck out and buy a good property, you might only be faced with mildew, mold, rotted wood, broken pipes, shattered windows, and a few other fun little issues. But if you don't, if you pick one of the bad ones, you might get waste disposal issues, maybe even hazardous waste if you're real lucky, burned down homes, landlocked properties, flooded properties. I've seen lots and lots of very, very serious issues. I cannot tell you how many times that I've seen so-called investors buy burned down homes, demolished homes. And I'm not talking about properties that got demolished like my story the day of or shortly after the auction. I'm talking about properties that have been demolished for a year or two. I've also seen investors buy tiny strips of useless land. I've seen investors think they were buying mobile homes, and those mobile homes have been hauled off the property 6 months ago. Why? Failure to research. All of that stuff looks good online, but when you go out there and you do that physical inspection of the property, that is going to be the deciding factor. And when it comes to vacant land, because again, people ask this all the time, it's just vacant land, right? I see it on Google Street View. This year, I saw a beautiful 3-acre plot with huge upside. It looked amazing online. Somebody bought it. and they got what would have been an amazing deal, except somebody in the past couple of years had dumped thousands and thousands of used tires on that property. And oddly enough, I've seen multiple properties now that have had tires dumped on it. But stories like this are near endless. Vacant land requires the same amount of effort when it comes to research as homes. So don't skip just because it is vacant. Now, obviously, here's the kicker. If you live thousands of miles away or hundreds of miles away, you probably don't want to spend the time, money, and effort to drive by a property. I totally get it. It likely won't even be cost efficient unless there are dozens of properties that you can look at. So here's the solution. Hire a local scout. Now, I've got videos on this, but essentially what you're doing is you're paying somebody local a very nominal amount to take a whole bunch of pictures for you on their iPhone and to give you their basic opinion of the property and maybe even the area. And it is very easy to find locals to provide strategic and detailed instructions on what you want them to do. Pay them a few bucks, then review and verify their information and make a decision. Of course, it's also very easy to skip this step entirely, take that gamble, and see what happens. But don't do that, no matter how tempting it might seem. Now, when I am personally researching everything about a property, and when I am the person who visits that property for the drive-by, everything about that investment falls directly on my shoulders and my shoulders alone. I am humble enough to admit that I've made loads of mistakes throughout my tax sale career. But I'm also experienced enough to know exactly what I should be looking for, combined with my gut feeling, and that'll tell me whether I should buy that property or don't buy the property. The same simply cannot be said for the times that I hire a scout. I can do all the research, have everything figured out, but the scout can miss something important or otherwise fail to provide that one piece of information that would have made me skip a property simply by mistake or oversight. So there is certainly an inherent risk when you did not handle everything yourself. But in some cases, that is a risk that I'd be willing to take provided all the other pieces line up. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And in some situations, if you're spending enough money, maybe you send multiple scouts to the same property to see if you get the same results. Or, of course, you're talking hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. You probably want to go take a look at that property yourself because it's not worth the risk. All right, now we've got the most important part out of the way, research. So next up, it comes auctions. Is it really possible to attend auctions without traveling? Yes, in most areas, especially lately as a result of the events of the last few years. Many counties have transitioned to online tax sales, and more are transitioning every single month. There are more counties offering tax defaulted real estate for sale online right now than ever before in history. Of course, some counties do still require you to attend in person in order to bid. Now, you could always travel there if you have multiple properties that you are interested in, or if you just want to have a business trip to write off. But the purpose of this podcast is not that kind of stuff. The purpose of this podcast is discussing whether or not it is possible to invest without traveling. Online, of course, is an easy answer. You simply log in and you bid on properties. But when it comes to those in-person auctions, it's a little bit more gray. In most areas, they will allow you to send an agent to bid on your behalf. This means you can hire a local scout, a local realtor, or other trusted professional to attend the auction and bid for you on your behalf. And you pay them an hourly, daily, or flat rate type fee. Now, the problem here is the logistics behind this is a little bit difficult to work through, and is something that you need to explore prior to investing a lot of time into researching properties in that area. Things like deposits and final payment deadlines can be tough to navigate with a stranger from afar. So it'll be up to you to determine how you handle the different logistical challenge on a case-by-case basis. But know, if you cannot attend an online auction, they require you to be there. A lot of places do allow an agent. You have to jump through some hurdles when it comes to the logistics. Now, on that same note of hiring people, such as scouts to perform site visits or agents to bid for you. Keep in mind that unless you are prepared to pay a lot of money for one property, it is best to have multiple properties you are interested in. In other words, having a scout drive by one lot at that auction and then hire an agent and paying a daily rate to go bid on your behalf for that same one lot, only for it to sell at 3 times your maximum bid amount, is a great way to waste a lot of time and money very, very quickly. So instead, you're going to want to have multiple properties that you are doing this for. Truthfully, the more the better to keep costs down. I'm talking about in one specific auction or one specific area. All right, last part of the equation is marketing and selling a property. For me, this is the easiest one. Yes, you can without a doubt market and sell a property from afar without ever traveling to that property using the internet. In fact, even if a property is right next door to me, 100% of my marketing and selling efforts will be focused online. With that said, the majority of my properties are sold as is, where is, take it or leave it, mostly to other investors. I am not interested in inspections, mortgages, or showings. Now, I exchange all of this time investment that I would have to put into that property for selling that property at a lower sales price. It is a cut and dry, you either want it or you don't type transaction. And I am very, very satisfied with lowering the price in order to save time. It's a strategy that makes me happy. It just makes my life and my business operate much easier. But if you're looking to get top dollar, if that is your thing, no problem, no judgment with that. But if you want top dollar, that means you're probably going to have to clean the property up a little bit. You have to schedule showings, that kind of thing. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is simply to hire a local realtor, pay them a commission for their time, and get top dollar for the property. Nothing right, nothing wrong with either one of those strategies. But marketing and selling is 100% doable without traveling. So to tie this all together, is it possible to invest in tax-defaulted real estate without traveling? Yes, absolutely. Does it take effort? Yes, absolutely. It takes a lot of effort to be successful. But you can 100% sit behind your computer and invest in most counties with the right effort, strategy, and process. I truly hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Tax Sale Podcast. If you do enjoy this episode or any of our episodes here on the podcast, please do me a huge favor and leave us a positive review on whatever podcasting or video platform you're listening to us on right now, as it really helps us out when it comes to algorithms and all that type of stuff. And as always, if I can be of any additional help, be sure to check out our website at Tax Sale Academy for our most comprehensive step-by-step tax sale training. Hey, take care and make it a successful day. We'll see you next time right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Bye-bye.